Houston, we got a problem. Who at fault? We at fault with your heart, man.
All right, thank you guys for coming to not the very first, but the latest episode of Houston, We Got a Problem. We have two special guests here, my boy Ashton and my boy Elliot, two very, very wise and impactful young men. First, Elliot, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Elliot. I was born and raised around North Carolina. I've been married for a couple of years now, going on 3 years. We just celebrated two. I'm the father of a 1-year-old who is terrorizing our house as we speak, walking and just talking and spelling out the letter E. And yeah, I'm on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter, the Elliot Nelson. I talk about lifestyle, faith, and everything else in between. So yeah, that's what it is.
So you have a heart for men's ministry and stuff, is that right?
Yes, almost to a fault though, because dudes just they want to get me out of here every time I start coming for them. So
I can relate. We're gonna come back to that though. Ashton, want to tell us about yourself, man?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name's Ashton Ross. I'm a 30-year-old, straight out of Houston, Texas, born and raised. Did a small little stint living in North Carolina, Greensboro. I was attending North Carolina A&T, the nation's #1 largest HBCU. Love it, man. A little bit about me. I just be on Twitter and I be writing. Nothing special, man. Okay. Same old, just cool guy.
So there is something that I do want to talk about with you though, Ashton. I can, although this podcast is called Houston, We Have a Problem. The city of Houston really does have a problem, especially with the sports teams, does it not? I mean, think about it. Deshaun Watson now wants out. First was James Harden, and then the Astros got caught cheating. So I mean, y'all can't catch a break, can you?
And then I was just in the laundromat and I saw on the news that J.J. Watt told people officially his days are numbered.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
I saw that too.
Hey, I got a spot for you in the squad, man, because that's
absolutely not.
That's what Deshaun Watson coming.
Absolutely not. But you know, I was born and raised here, man. So like, it's like an obligation. When you're a Houstonian, you just gotta ride for the Houston stuff because nobody's really paying attention to us anyway. So like, when we get something, we gotta hold on to it. So no matter how bad they probably about to suck for the next 10 years.
Man, y'all need to get Joe Osteen to pray for the city, man.
No, I will. Okay.
Who was the starting quarterback for the Houston Gamblers?
I have no idea.
You don't even know who the Houston Gamblers are, do you?
I know who the Oilers are, but I don't know who the Gamblers are.
SFL, Houston Gamblers. Doug Williams.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, XFL. He hate me.
Well, speaking of the NFL, there is a story going, well, not really going around. That's not talked about a lot. A young sister was beat up pretty bad, left for dead actually by her boyfriend, and it's very upsetting because what's the guy's name? Is it Wheeler?
Chad Wheeler.
Chad Wheeler. Yeah, Coach. So you got some thoughts about that?
I feel that once again, when it comes to sports and its bias, the NFL has really reared its ugly head in just the last few weeks. Not only with Chad Wheeler, even with the hiring of NFL coaches. All of those positions was open. And ironically, Houston was the only one that hired an African-American coach or black coach.
And I honestly feel, not to cut you off, but I honestly feel like they only did that to try to keep Deshaun.
Well, yeah. I think even Deshaun knows that. Mm-hmm. And that's one reason why he's still saying he wants out. But getting back to the Chad Wheeler story, you have a Caucasian white player who physically abused. In other words, what we say, he beat the brakes off that sister. It was a young African-American girl. He literally beat the brakes off of that girl. There's been reports even from TMZ that he dislocated her arm, he bloodied her up. And the NFL tried to sweep it under the rug. Not only did the NFL try to sweep it under the rug, a lot of your sports shows that come on every day, your sports magazines that come on television every day, if they did say anything about it, they hit it and ran. In other words, they mentioned it and went right on. And that just goes to show you the racial bias that's even in sports in America. How you couldn't make me believe if that was Cam Newton or Antonio Brown or what's the young man, Kareem Hunt?
Ray Rice.
Ray Rice, other young African-American men who were brought up on domestic violence charges, that they wouldn't have been dealt with harshly. Now, what the NFL did was, of course, Seattle let him go, but they didn't let him go. His contract was expiring anyhow. They just didn't re-sign him. That's all that was. They probably wasn't going to re-sign him anyhow because he was a guy who came on and off the practice squad anyhow. So he really wasn't in their long-term future. But to make it look good in the eyes of the general public, especially the black public, they said, well, we gonna cut it. Yeah, right. Okay. If that's the way you want to spin it. All right. But we know that we looked at Antonio Brown and the way he was ridiculed and the way he was suspended and the way even when he talked about his own owner for suspending him, who, by the way, was brought up on sexual charges in Florida at the time. And that's the reason why Ray Rice, not Ray Rice, but Antonio Brown said what he said about the owner of the New England Patriots. How can you talk about me and you dealing with sexual charges in Florida? See, it's a bias. And if you read any of the articles in the mainstream media, they're putting a spin on it. Now, all of a sudden, he wasn't on his meds. Now, all of a sudden, he wasn't in his right mind. You wasn't saying that about Ray Rice. When in actuality, I don't condone. I've been married twice and never have hit my wives, either one of them. And I've been married almost 30 years both times. I don't condone that. But Ray Rice's girlfriend hit him first. Now, I don't condone him hitting her back because we always say, well, you know, a man is stronger here. I don't condone grown folks hitting on each other either way. I don't condone that. A woman shouldn't have her hands on you and you shouldn't have her hands on her. Because after all, you are not each other's children. You are not each other's children. And you don't belong with your hand either way. I don't condone it either way. But my point is the NFL is so biased in what they do when it comes to African-American players. And your sports shows, your ESPN shows, and your Fox shows and all of that, those guys will ride a Ray Rice or they'll ride Antonio Brown for 2 weeks. They'll ride it for 2 weeks. And you'll get people hollering about, oh, he should be suspended. He never should, that he this, and that. And they ran Ray Rice out of the league.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. So I watch football, but I'm not like every Sunday huge fan or whatever. And man, I didn't even know who Ray Rice was until that situation happened. You know what I'm saying? But now I know his name for sure. You know, right. And
right.
Not just that, but you know, it's directly connected to that incident. Right. And I don't think that that'll necessarily be the outcome for Chad Wheeler, which I think is a little like the gentleman said, I think it's a bias. You know, it's definitely a bias in the NFL. But one thing I want to make sure that the narrative, you know, especially we as Black men, one thing I want to make sure the narrative that we push is, you know, we don't forget about the sister in all of this. Because, you know, yes, it was very unfortunate that it's a clear bias between how the NFL and how the media treats Black athletes versus how it treats white athletes, you know, when anything happens negatively in the media. But my thing is I don't want her story, you know what I'm saying, and her victimhood to get lost in the conversation about race, because it's a layered situation, you know, because it does involve a biracial couple, so automatically involves race. Then when we have to compare it between Chad Wheeler and, you know, situations like Ray Rice or you know, just other football players in the past who have had abusive run-ins and things of that nature. Yes, that race layer is there, but you know, then there's also the layer of, like I said, just her being a woman experiencing domestic violence in this country. And most of the conversation surrounding this situation has been about, oh, well, if it was a black man, and that's true, 100%. But I want more people to definitely speak up, just in general, male, female, black, white, whatever. We gotta stop, like my man said, we gotta stop putting our hands on each other as grown adults, period. Um, you know, now in the Chad Willis situation, I don't understand how it's not being talked about more, because for a man, not mentally well or not, to be telling his woman, you need to bow to me, and when she doesn't, like my man say, beat the brakes off of her. And then on top of that, you sit there and eat your dinner while her bloody body is on the floor. You don't even call the authorities. You know what I'm saying?
Then even on that, on top of that, young man, he even asked her, aren't you dead? So that means his intentions were to kill her. And you have to understand his history.
Yeah.
He had a violent history when he was at USC. He was arrested. They said he was allegedly, of course, they add their words when it's to them too. It's always something mysterious when it comes to the other side. You know, if it's one of us, he had 72 pounds of cocaine and 19 COVID needles sticking in his neck. You know, that's what they're going to say about us. But when it comes to one of them, it's always, well, he might have been on drugs. But the police actually went to the house. He had a confrontation, a physical confrontation with the police. And guess what they did to him? They shot him with beanbags after a physical confrontation. Now, you know, had that been Elliot Nelson or Ashton, they'd have blew the back of your head off. And that's just the truth. He had a physical confrontation, and then instead of arresting him, they didn't arrest him, they took him to the hospital.
Yeah.
And we watch our boys. Go ahead, young man. Go ahead, Elliot.
Yeah. The whole situation for me, I didn't even realize that none of the sports casts even really talked about it. I follow Bleacher Report. I follow House of Highlights. I follow ESPN. I follow Undisputed. And blame it on the Instagram algorithm or not, I ain't seen not a one thing being talked about. So to piggyback off of Sean and Ashton, like, it is twofold. One, there is a racial bias because this thing would have exploded all the way to CNN had it been one of us. Number two, yeah, we do need to stop hitting each other. Now, I say we do, like I hit my wife. I don't hit my wife at all, period, point blank. But I remember when the Ray Rice thing happened, and as Kofi said, I have a heart for men and men's ministry. The first thing, when it comes to even domestic violence as a whole, the one thing I realize is that as a man, we can bottle up a whole lot. Bottle up to a point where it takes one thing from your woman to say something. And out of that, you explode. And whatever that explosion looks like I said, I don't condone hitting anyone either. Even if you are exploding to that point, I pray someone has a restraint. But for this guy, and for them to attach the mental health thing, like,
I'm not gonna lie, it seems convenient.
It seems very convenient.
Seems convenient.
Very convenient. And again, if one of us were to say, I was off my meds, I was off my rocker, you might as well hang your NFL career up. And also, this reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger,
Yeah.
who is actively playing in the NFL, could have gotten to the Super Bowl this year, but indicted for rape charges.
And will probably go down as a Hall of Fame quarterback when
You never hear it mentioned.
when what he does on the field, let alone, I don't even think he deserves that. But
you never hear it mentioned.
You don't hear him mentioned no more. And when people like celebrate him and root for him, I'm like, yo.
But
he
every time you talk about Michael Vick, they always say he went to prison. It's always added to Michael Vick. Whatever he did.
Fine, Vic. To this day, they will not let Vic live. If you go on social media, if Vic could say something or whatever, they always say, we hope he died. He need to be treated like he treated them dogs. Like, the man served his time. It's not like he did it was terrible what he did to the dogs, yes, but he served his time, and he's out here being an advocate and all this other stuff, but you still want him to suffer? But then you have all these other instances where black kids and men and women are lying in the street and being and experience all these injustices, and you're indifferent about it, you know?
Go ahead, Elliot.
Well, I was gonna say the one thing that's clear in these types of situations, even in the victimhood of the young lady, is that when it comes to Black bodies, there is no humanity in the eyes of the media, in the eyes of the general world that's looking. You know what I'm saying? That is why the response is always different. That is why a police officer can go into a situation with a 6, probably 3, 4, 5 guy. I know if the position he was playing, probably over 230, 250 pounds, they go in that situation and subdue him with beanbags, because in their eyes, this is a person. This is a living, breathing human being. This is a soul. We're catching him on his worst moment. Let's just get him calm, and then we'll figure out the rest later. Black folks, they see Thanos. They see, somebody, a barking dog, man.
What's
they see
Thanos?
A wild, ravaged animal.
Thanos?
My man's not in the Marvel. He's a villain, a super villain.
Old school.
Super villain. Yeah, a Marvel comic super villain. But
okay.
Yeah, man, like they don't see a human is the point I'm making, you know? And that's where the differences lie, unfortunately. And until we can get to a point, which is gonna be quite a battle, when the foundation of our lives, especially in this country, was 3/5 a human. Like, that's the best we could get. Like, if you're gonna be human, you're not a whole human. So that's the base that we're working from. And right now we're barely getting to like, well, maybe they can breathe the same air as us.
I think one thing, Ashton, when it comes to a platform, a lot of times I even blame us, because there are some of us who have the power and the voice to speak on these things. Some of these guys on these sports news shows and different things, they've got power. They've got plenty of power, and they'll let you know how much power they have. And they've got enough power to speak on these things and make these things a topic of that particular show that day. They have the power to do that. A lot of times when we have platforms and stuff like that, we become afraid and scared. And one thing I'm tired of hearing Black people say, this is the new narrative when it comes to Black. I was scared. I was afraid. They came into my house and I was afraid. We've got to stop pushing that narrative that we're scared of everything. And if you have a platform, this thing should be spoken about. Do you guys remember Jim Lampley, who used to be with HBO Sports and did boxing? One of the things he did, he criticized Floyd Mayweather for the incidents Floyd Mayweather had with the mother of his children, when Floyd went to jail for 90 days and this, that, and the other. And I saw so many Black people jump down Floyd's case, even some of the Black women that were sportcasters on ESPN. They jumped down his case. But nobody said a word about Jim Lampley and his case with the young woman from Brownsville, Tennessee.
Mm.
And he pleaded no contest when he was married to physically abusing a woman. Her last name was Sanders. I know her family. Her uncle used to preach here in Decatur. Nobody said a word about that. And the Black people that had the ability and the power to do so never said a word. And we have to stop that also. If you got a platform to speak up and you can bring this stuff to light, I don't care if it's sports or not, bring it to light.
Yeah. I actually just did a quick Google search. It looks like Shannon Sharp did say something 3 days ago on Undisputed. So I'll take back kind of what I said about no news outlet said something. They said something. I just haven't watched them yet. But
listen,
it don't look like it's going in the rate as a Ray Rice is.
Exactly.
Or as an Antonio Brown is.
They spent a month on Antonio Brown. They spent a month on him.
Yeah.
That's why I said I'm pretty sure they hit and missed. Go ahead.
Yeah, you ain't got Stephen A. You know, Stephen A. will go viral with the lay off the weed and that type of stuff. Like we ain't got those clips like we would with them guys. So, you know, it's unfortunate, and even to the point of like shooting him with bean bags. I don't know. Maybe it was. I'm not even going to put no type of rhyme or reason to it. I know the reason why, but in my mind, I'm like, man, maybe because he is a 350-pound dude. Like I don't know, but at the same time, I know why, because of his skin color. And I thought about, it's funny, I was watching this show called Manhood about the Unabomber, and when they caught the Unabomber, they got him in a secluded place. He lived off in a secluded place somewhere. I think it was like in Colorado or something like that.
Montana.
They went to go, Montana. They went to go get him, and in my mind, I'm like, this man got like explosives in his cabinet. He opens the door, they don't shoot him. They detain him, and then they pull a bulletproof vest on him. You know what they said on this daggone show? They said, we put a vest on you because we don't know if somebody wants to kill you. And I literally like, my mouth dropped. I said, so this has been going on for quite a long time.
Oh,
so
man, yeah.
So for them to shoot bean bags, not even pellets, we're talking bean bags that's probably soft on that man's body. You ain't did not one thing.
Got 300 some odd pounds.
He eating them bean bags up.
Yeah, man. Somebody who taking hits from people his size or bigger.
Right.
Exactly. And I'm pretty sure in practice he's doing them even harder, because like you got a man running a four or in a four flat, he running straight to you. Imagine Ocho Cinco going full steam ahead hitting this man. A beanbag not doing nothing. You might as well just take those back to Walgreens or wherever you got them from.
Who, by the way, they said he was on drugs at the time, so he really ain't feeling nothing.
He up in the clouds. He ain't feeling not one thing. So I mean, it's just interesting to me, and it sucks because not only is it a domestic violence case, but it's also on a Black woman. Mm-hmm. And we talk about protecting Black women all the time. It's like you said, Ashton, like we don't really see anybody advocating for the Black woman. We just want the fact that this is a white guy, and you shot him with beanbags. Maybe you should have shot him dead, like you would have shot us dead. But in the same token, like, this is a Black woman who's suffering, who didn't deserve, what happened. I don't care. Most people would even go to the full reign and say, well, we don't know what happened. I don't care what happened. She could have said, I'm not cooking you your dinner tonight. I don't care. She don't deserve to be left for dead. Yeah. Nobody deserves that. I don't.
Meant to kill her.
And in most of those cases, wasn't the victim a Black woman? And predominantly those cases?
Yeah.
And so then it kind of goes to, you got to ask the question. It's like, what's the value of a black woman in men's eyes? Not just a black man's eyes, but in men's eyes,
In
all across
men's eyes, in society's eyes.
and like what Malcolm X said, the least protected woman in America is the black woman.
Black woman.
Yeah, the least protected person, the least, the most disrespected. And when you brought that up, started going through my mental Rolodex. Like, have I ever heard of a case where a black man just jumped on his white, you know what I'm saying, his white woman? You know, because these
OJ, that's not the point. OJ just
I mean,
he don't fool with us no more. But
yeah, you know, I mean,
unless he need the black women in court to get off.
You feel me? But other than OJ, who by some crazy twist of fate got off, I'm hard pressed to think of anybody. You know what I'm saying? Basically, this isn't a pattern. You know, it's not a pattern because it's definitely a pattern for them D1 players to, you know, get to the NFL and right after the signing bonus, it's a white woman. Right. You know what I'm saying? No issue with integrated, but at the same time, we don't see the same violence, unadulterated hatred and physical, you know, and even social violence against white women.
We view the white woman at a higher standard than what we view our own women, because for so long it's been put in our face that that's the golden calf.
Yeah. Society says women, that's the pure.
When it comes to our women, that's the baby having loud machine. So you produce babies and make all this racket. And as I heard a black woman say yesterday, you become a black belt, which means it's a belt around a white guy's waist when he lays a black woman, or you can become a black belt, or we look at her as the golden calf. And that's why we devalue our own women.
Jumping from that, it kind of makes me think about preferences. I want to ask this so we can just segue from this, you know, to the main topic with, like, you know, preferences, right? So y'all remember that prophet on Facebook that listed all his desires as qualifications for his wife? Y'all remember that?
And got ate
alive. He talking about she must be light skinned, must do this, must do that. But it presented us so many questions in my mind, but it makes me wonder, like, why do we think light skin is such desirable? You know, a light skinned person is such desirable. This is the epitome of attractiveness. Is it because of our conditioning for so long in this country to where we think that anything close to whiteness is the epitome of beauty?
Pure. Anything associated with white when it comes to us is always deemed as being pure and honest and golden and harmony and fluffy and you know, all that type of stuff. Everything. But anything associated with blackness is always demeaned, low graded, pushed down, pushed aside. This is the thing I have with a lot of the athletes in sports and stuff. You can have babies by a lot of these black women when you're in college and when you're in high school, but then when you start making them millions, they don't become good enough.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a societal thing. I mean, I don't even have to be an echo chamber, to be honest. Like, it just is what it is, based on the foundations of, you know, this country, which is just racism through and through. White is right, you know what I'm saying? And so within the black community, we unfortunately suffer the effects of colorism because we can be all over the spectrum, but those of us who are closer to the spectrum of whiteness in skin tone, just because of the mental conditioning, they're automatically assumed to be better, purer, more beautiful, more wholesome, you know, whatever the case may be. Something interesting that I'm actually noticing with something that's going on recently is how this situation with Chloe Bailey. So if y'all don't know who Chloe Bailey is, she's a part of the young group Chloe and Halle. They're sisters. Brought up by not brought up by Beyonce, but kind of brought through the industry by Beyonce, and they're kind of on the rise. Chloe, beautiful young woman, shapely, you know what I'm saying, has all the right curves, all the right places. Well, people are upset that as she's coming into her womanhood, certain people are upset that as she's coming into her womanhood, getting a little older, she's starting to, you know what I'm saying, figure that out, show her sexuality, you know what I'm saying, show her sensuality, and not even in the most risque ways, just light stuff, you know what I'm saying? Well, people have flipped a switch on her, like, oh my God, I can't believe she's turning into a whore and blah, 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 blah. And people were saying like she was a good girl. And what I want to know is like, what made her a good, what made her a good girl? To society at large, like people who kept saying like she's a good girl, because I don't really think it was like they built a good girl image. I don't think they built a good girl type of platform with their music. So like what makes you look at her versus any other dark-skinned woman that would get on the internet at the same age and do the same thing? And what makes you look at her and say, oh, she was supposed to be a good girl. I can't believe she's out here showing herself off like that. I could be jumping the gun. I would say it's because she's light-skinned. I would say looking at that, people assumed, oh, she's supposed to be pure. She's supposed to be wholesome and dainty. And, you know, she's light-skinned with pretty eyes and blah, blah, blah. How could she be putting herself out there like that when there are female rappers and female entertainers who are of darker hues that do it all the time, from all age spectrums, younger to older. And nobody is saying like, oh, I thought she was a good girl. Like what gave you this angelic image of her? And I really do think it a lot of it boils down to her skin tone. And so there's a huge issue, man, when it comes to preferences. I mean, just like the guy, the prophet. Like, why did have to write that in? She got to be light skinned. What does that mean?
Well, he could have just said she got to be black, because I should have said that on my list.
Nah, hey, if you say that, brother, right on.
Yeah, I don't know. I think another aspect of it is that how light skin versus dark skin has been portrayed in media. I think in movies and shows, you see light skin. Martin is a good example of this. Because I didn't even realize how we put Gino on a pedestal.
Yes.
Compared to Pam.
And Pam was the BDBs and all of that.
Right. Yeah. Like Martin literally went on and I mean, funny as all get out still, but he went on a whole tirade on Pam, calling her a horse, buckwheat, all these different things. When Gina, she get like, you go, girl. And it's like, I think media has had a big part in how we view light skin versus dark. Now, I ain't got a problem. I don't think any of us on the show got a problem. But yeah, I think media has done its due diligence in making sure that, hey, light skinned women are top tier compared to the Pams of the world.
You even seen that with, remember the movie Jason's Lyric, when Jada Pinkett and the other young man, I forget his name,
Alan
how
Payne.
they were the couple that was so in love, and his brother was the dark-skinned guy, and he was crazy. He was a jail, he was killing and he shot up people and did all this kind of crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying?
He was beating on his woman. His name was Mad Dog.
You even see that in Tyler Perry movies.
I was just about to say that.
Man.
I was just about to say that.
Blair Underwood was the crazy dude.
Diary of a Mad Black Woman.
Yes.
And
Blair Underwood was the crazy dude.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see it in Tyler Perry movies.
Yeah.
Even Tyler Perry show. My wife hates that I'm a fan of House of Pain, but I love House of Pain. And
it's actually one of his better works.
It's one of his better works. I love it. I don't know why she's sitting next to me. I don't know why she don't like it, but whatever. You can see that you don't really get too many light skin, dark skin resemblance in there. But I think with Calvin's dark skin, he got to be a stupid one.
Yeah.
While CJ Payne, he's the honorable one. He married the
help his
crackhead wife,
did right by his
helping his
children.
wife, firefighter, the whole nine. And I'm like, like it don't got to be that way. It really
Calvin
don't.
was stupid, didn't know what he wanted to do. Took him 15 years to graduate from college, all that kind of stuff.
Found the one, got divorced.
Yeah.
While CJ still got his wife.
Had a baby out of wedlock, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and what's so crazy is I don't even think most of this stuff is done intentionally. I don't think, I would hope, because you can't put anything past Hollywood, but I would hope Tyler Perry isn't in his casting rooms literally saying, get the light skinned guy to play this role, get the dark skinned guy to play this role.
I don't think he does.
Because of the conditioning, because of the conditioning, it's so just haphazard. It's just like, if I need a good, wholesome character, I'm looking through my headshots, and as soon as I get to that light skin face, it's like, oh, maybe, and that's horrible, man. Like, we have to break these norms, these societal norms.
And what I want you guys to notice another way they portray our Black women, especially in Hollywood. Start to notice this. And me and my sister and I, or however you're supposed to say it, y'all know what I mean. We had this discussion on yesterday, how Hollywood is now, when you see the Black women on, especially a lot of these medicine commercials, Xantex and, them type of commercials where, they're the pills and all of that. And if you got lupus, if you take zicamine, all of these commercials now, and a lot of the Hollywood shows, they're showing our Black women with hair less than a quarter of an inch long. And they have the manly figures and the manly face. Now, I don't have anything against Black women with short hair. I'm not saying that. But it goes back to what we were saying. You don't see short hair white women in the commercials and on TV. You see them on the Pantene commercials with their hair flowing and the VO5 commercial. Y'all don't even know what VO5 is, but them type of commercials, putting their hands through their hair and doing it back and forth and swinging it all up and down. But when it comes to our women, their hair is short as a man.
And what I would
if you didn't look at their body, you wouldn't know that they weren't men.
And what I would even drill down further, concerning that, is why has society deemed short hair and things of that nature masculine? Why have they pinned that as masculine? You know what I'm saying? Knowing that our women, if they don't have a perm, or if they don't, if they don't have a relaxer, if they don't, have a wig on or something of that nature, depending on their curl type, their hair type, most of our women, when they just grow their hair out straight of their head, exactly. That's how it's going to look. It's going to look short. It's going to look, you know what I'm saying? But why have we deemed that as masculine? You know what I'm saying?
I think there's a difference, because Black women can style their hair from an Afro perspective. But I'm talking about when their hair is in a collision type style and it's lined up to where it's not a difference.
She got a taper fade.
It's not it's pretty much a ball fade. A lot of them have pretty much ball fades, and it's not a difference. Our women are glorified with their naturals. Our women are glorified with their hair being kinky. I think it's beautiful on a Black woman when they wear their natural hair and stuff like that. I spent 11 days in Africa, and I didn't see one woman look like a man. That's what they portray in the media. But I was in Lagos, Nigeria, and I spent time there. And the beauty them Black women had was astronomical. It was incredible with their natural hair.
I believe.
And I wasn't married at the time, and I started to bring about 9 back with me. I'm just playing. I'm showing off now. But they were beautiful. They were beautiful. But they're not portrayed that way when it comes to the mainstream media.
Yeah.
You look
And
at our
it's shaped.
sisters. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just piggybacking. You know, it's that all of those things shape our perspective, and they shape what we consider to be our preferences. But you know, what I've been learning over the last couple of years is that you have to really dig into your preferences to figure out, why is this a preference of mine? You know what I'm saying? And it's fine to find light-skinned people, of male or female, attractive. They be attractive. You know what I'm saying? Not as a general rule of thumb, but light-skinned people be attractive, dark skin, brown skin, whatever.
Yes,
But
they do.
if you're saying I'm only dating, you know, like the prophet, my wife, I need her to be light skinned. Brother, you done just cut off a whole world of women.
My man has narrowed her search down. He ain't getting married.
So
You
So
done just
that
cut off
means
a whole world of beautiful
you
women.
cut off beautiful women like Cicely Tyson, Gabrielle
Come on
Union,
now.
dark-skinned women like that. You cut off
Come
all
on
them
now.
type. You just cut off all them type.
so
Like I
Grace
said, them
Jones.
beautiful black women that were in Africa.
Yeah, man.
so Coach
There
T,
was some fine women, man.
this is
None of them had no bones in their nose. They didn't have no plates in their lips and
Ah,
all that kind of stuff. They
Coach
weren't standing around with flies all in their eyes and all them lies that are told in America.
Coach T, this is the prophet we talking about. All right, I'm gonna read you his list. He says, I'm looking for a Proverbs 31 wife who must meet this criteria. The woman must be Christ-centered, okay, absolutely gorgeous, all right, can sing, light skin with a stunning smile, between ages 22 to 27, absolutely no kids, loves Jesus more than anything else, can cook and is tidy, and her intercessor is between 5 foot and 5'4", never been married before, submitted and a great listener, hospitable, and loves Jesus Christ more than me.
So then
His
that cuts
list. So
And
his
that
cuts
list started off.
Huh?
that
His
cuts
list started
the
off
mother of
strong.
Jesus out there.
Hmm.
That
Talk
cuts the
about
mother of
it.
Jesus out because she was pregnant with somebody else's child.
Talk
His
about it.
his list started off very strong,
Did, and then it just went.
and then it went.
And then it took a nosedive.
Really
So
did.
I mean, and even to the reference point of just the list itself, but even outside of the whole light skin thing, I don't see nothing wrong with having a list. I know Michael Todd talked about ripping up your list. I think everybody can have a list to a certain point. Like so I'm saying that because I had a list, and my list wasn't necessarily on the range of the prophet, but my list was things like black, ambitious, goal-oriented, love Jesus more than me. I did
Character
have
traits.
some character traits, and then I did have slim thick up there. I did have that, and I got that. So like I I had those things up there, uh, really because I was under the belief that if I had like, and I felt like God actually led me to write a list anyway. So I'll just go ahead and say that. But I had something that I was aiming in prayer towards. Now, I did not mean that I was just canceling out any other woman that didn't meet that list. I kind of had the list, prayed about it, and did not rediscover the list until I met my wife. Like I literally looked up, I said, I think I wrote a list about you. Um, the prophet's list, he just, like, it bothers me because I think in a nutshell, he he wants to do right with having a list and having something to pray toward. But the issue here is that it seems like he has a conditioned mindset of thinking this is what a wife looks like. And then now let's tailor the wife to what I'm attracted to. Ain't nothing wrong with you being attracted to a light skinned woman if you end up, finding that one cool. If he find that, if he gets that whole list, the entire social media world will be shut down. Because he'll be like, y'all done talked about us, talked about me.
Now look.
Right.
Right.
But
Need to be
you're not gonna
talked
find
about.
that. You're not gonna find that entire list. I promise you that. But like, it just screams to me that he really just is looking to fulfill a strong flesh-like desire. And I think our purposes really shouldn't come from our flesh, but really should be birthed from the spirit. And that's something different that we can go on a tangent. But I don't see nothing wrong with him having actual purposes and having a list. I think one of the things that like I just feel just so like kind of grieved about really is that guys are really sitting out here saying, "Hey, I want my wife to be this type of color, uh, that she got to be stand this type of tall, that she got to cook." Well, I guess we're gonna talk about gender roles in a minute. She got to cook. She got to be able to do this and that. You want somebody back in the 1970s,
And then not only that, but and I'm gonna just have to go and say it, brother, do you meet any of these requirements?
Thank you. Can
Right.
you sing?
Do you know
are
how
you
to?
light skinned?
Do you have the
Do
nerve to
you
put? Do you have what it takes to marry a prophet at the end? When
Oh,
because being a prophet is what qualifies you for marriage.
So
Appreciate you.
then how many souls is he winning? How many souls is he winning on a daily basis?
Probably -1.
I had a friend here in Decatur. He's still a friend of mine.
it was
Lives
on
right around the corner from me. And Big C, I tell you who he is one of these days. He's got these high standards. Now he's done reached about 60 years old. He's never been married. And he's got these high standards about what he wants in a woman. And so I asked him, I said, why do you have these standards so high and you can't even reach them yourself? Now get this. He just as round as I am. He got a tooth out.
all right.
He lived with his mother right now, and he's 60 years old.
Live with his mama at 60.
Right now, who's 80 something.
Ooh, I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
And you're on disability.
No, sir.
And he got these standards. And he got the colossal nerve to want somebody in their 30s. Talking about slim and trim.
Bro,
I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. Tooth long gone. Down the street somewhere. Tooth laying down the street. In the alley or something. Do they even have alleys anymore? That's where his tooth is. And he talking about what he wanted. And I'm like, dude, me and you both round as a sitting chair. And you talking about you want this slim and trim, and you 60 years old? Man, you better get what you can get and be proud of what you got and go head on.
What they say?
I love
They
it.
used to say at Robertson, "Get what you get, don't throw a fit."
Right. Please. You mean really? You gonna set them type of standards and your tooth gone?
Oh, yeah, that's how. If I was going to sum it up for the prophet, that's it right there. Like you don't even got you got the audacity. You don't got the range. You don't got the range. You asking for Beyonce on a Chief Keef level. Like you asking for Beyonce on
Ice JJ Fish level.
Ice JJ Fish level, right? Like you asking for somebody who really is not even just not out of your league, but she out the galaxy. Like, and you got the nerve. And so, but I think a lot of dudes got the nerve. Like, you see it every day on Twitter where they were probably even responding to Chloe. Like, they got all these different aspects, these different things in their mind that says this is what my wife should be, what my wife should look like, what it is. And dog, you work at UPS. Nothing wrong with a good job, right? Like the prophet looked like he worked at Enterprise, but again, you got these the nerve, the audacity to have a list that strenuous.
And what's crazy to me is I truly believe it's just simply because they're men. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it may not be an instinctive thing, or should I say not instinctive, but a direct, thing. It may not be intentional, but simply because I'm a man, this is what I want. That's not how that works, buddy. You know what I'm saying? And what's funny is there probably was a time, and I won't even say probably, there was a time when that was the thing, when women had to depend on men for everything. Women couldn't even have a bank account without, their husband signing off on it. When women couldn't go to the doctor and get certain procedures without a man's signature on the form. There was a time when, yeah, because I'm a man by virtue of me being male, I get what I want because I'm the only one that's making any money up in here. I'm the only one that's, whatever. This ain't that time, player. I'm sorry you've been listening to Uncle and Grandpa and them. You're going to have to bring something to the table with these 2021 women. I'm sorry. You just going to have to.
They out here,
and being 60 with one tooth on disability in your mama house, that ain't gonna bro.
You might hang it up. You might
he ain't even got a lawnmower to cut her grass.
You can't even sit on a lawnmower to cut it.
He got a car. Nothing. He don't even have a car.
Does he at least got a license?
Can he even, at 60 years old with one tooth on disability, can he even minister to the woman of God on the wedding night?
Well, he's a minister. That's for sure. But I said that really not to degrade him, but to let you know how silly it is when we place those high standards when it comes to our women.
Yeah.
Instead of just finding somebody that's going to be a helpmeet to you, that's going to help you meet your spiritual needs.
So my question,
it's going to help you meet your natural needs. So what if one of her eyes drooping and the other one high? So what? Your neck thick. Your feet stink. So y'all both got problems. She didn't say nothing about your jaw's bigger than the other. She loving you for who you are.
Did y'all have any preferences and have they changed over the years?
Definitely. When I was younger, I was definitely a colorist. And I have to admit that. But like, it wasn't necessarily that I was shunning dark-skinned women away, because young me, I was lucky to just be getting a woman. But I definitely preferred, you know what I'm saying? Well, I want a red bone. I want a light skin. And 9 out of my 10 preferences definitely were like physical. You know what I'm saying? Like 17-year-old me may not have said it out loud, but I definitely had a list like the prophet. You know what I'm saying? That probably could have rivaled his. You know what I'm saying? In my mental, like I said, I may not have said it out loud, but literally as I began to dig and say, like, why? Why this? Why that? Why do you want this? And when I couldn't find a reason that led back to Christ, or I couldn't find a reason that just had good reason behind it, I had to let that stuff go, man. I had to let that stuff go.
I think, and you have to understand, I come up in the 70s. I was born in the 60s, so I come up in the mid to late 60s and the 70s. And Kofi spoke earlier about I come up under his grandfather and different things, and they had a different perspective on stuff back then. So they trained us and taught us in a different manner. So that type of stuff didn't make a difference to us, because we were all after just one cause back then. So it really didn't matter. Plus, I'm cockeyed, so I was just glad to get a phone call. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't matter to me. I didn't care, long as I had a girlfriend. She could be dark as me or bright as the noonday sun. I didn't care. If somebody was calling, I was the man. So that's the way I looked at it.
I hear that.
Did you have any preferences, Elliot, and have they changed over the years?
Yeah, so I would say that I had one big preference. And if you see my wife, you know that preference definitely changed. But it was about hair. And so I wanted someone who has long curly hair. And if you follow my wife long enough, she switches hair by the season.
Yeah, she does.
So she'll rock the low cut. She'll do the perm. She'll do the natural thing. I got 2 women in one. So like it was stuff like that. Like I never really had the colorist issue with me. I had the hair thing and I had the physical, like the body type. So I was big before Larissa. I was big on she had to be super thick and like stupid stuff like that. Like she had to be like Nicki Minaj type type of thing. And when I met Larissa, everybody said that's your wife because that is definitely not your type. And when I say that to people, they think that I'm saying Larissa was ugly when I met her. When I say not my type, like literally every girl I dated up until Larissa, they all looked the same. And they all did not work out for a specific reason. But when I met Larissa, she was petite, she was slim, she slim thick, like I said, and she just 100% the total opposite of what my purposes were back in the day. So it definitely changed a whole lot. And I even tell dudes now, like, your purposes are probably gonna change. You want. If I was to talk to the prophet, I would tell him, you might want to listen to Michael Todd and rip your list up.
Yeah, you might want to.
You might want to do that.
Yeah, your list is outrageous.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work out for you. So yeah, they definitely changed for
sure. I did have some preferences growing up. I was more so kind of like Ashton. I can admit I was a little colorist, a little bit. But I dated, all kinds of women. But in my heart, I knew that I would end up marrying either a Black woman or a Hispanic woman. I just knew. It's just something in me that knew that. And those are two women I was always like super attracted to. When I was in high school, the only reason why I took Spanish was because I had it in my mind I was going to go down to Miami and I was going to be on the beach talking about, hey,
you was about to get you a Sophia Vergara.
All I had to say was, "Ay, papi," and I was wide open. You know what I'm saying? And I was going to have all kinds of kids. But the Lord saved me. He said, no, I'm not going to let him make a fool of himself. You ain't about to do all that. But yeah, I did have some preferences growing up. But now it's like, as I got older, it's like you said, it moved more from the physical aspects to more of the character. Like, what kind of person is she? Is she going to pray for me when I need her? Or like, is she going to be receptive to when I'm going through things spiritually or going through things physically or mentally? It's like all these character traits that I started to look for more instead of like, well, she got to be looking like this. You know what I'm saying? She has to be fine, of course, but I'm just saying, it's like my preferences have definitely kind of been more.
What constitutes being fine?
Beauty is
attractive to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Okay. So, I can deal that. I can take that, attractive to me, because I think that's one thing that has shifted us towards lighter is better, is because we felt the lighter was always the fine ones.
Right.
And the dark ones always were, the ones that were a little rough and gruff and what have you. Yeah, like you said, this, that, or the other. So that's why I asked, what constitutes being fine? In my opinion, you don't have to be light as a feather to be fine. I told you I went to Africa. Them sisters were very dark. Them women was fine as I don't know what.
Yeah, man.
There's some fine ones out there for sure.
There's a lot of them out there. A lot of them.
It'd be fine African women over here. So I can only imagine what they look like in Africa.
They were beautiful. And they weren't, we always compare when it comes to Black women, I don't know why, but we always compare them to Beyonce. Yes, Beyonce is beautiful, but they didn't have that type of glamour, but they were still beautiful in their personalities. And you would be like, man, I can get with that. You hear the way she talking? You hear how intelligent she talking? That's somebody I can get with that's going to be a liability. I mean, an asset and not a liability. If I can be with somebody that's going to bring something to the table, that's what's fine to me.
Yeah.
Is she going to support me? That's what's fine to me. And I'm not talking about monetarily. I'm talking about, is she going to support me in my beliefs, in my spiritual beliefs? That's what's fine to me. You know what I'm saying? When I'm sick and down and I'm laying in the bed with the flu and I can't move and I hear her in the other room calling on the name of the Lord. She can look like a roach for all I care. That's sexy to me.
I don't know, dog. That's where we diverge. Right? I ain't trying to be. I don't want to be living in Joe's apartment now.
I don't care.
So look,
I don't care.
When I get healthy and I'm ready.
But if she can, if she can call on the name of the Lord and pull me to my health, then that's what I need.
Hey,
I ain't worried about no looks and all that kind of stuff. Looks done got a lot of brothers on child support.
I hope to get to that point in my life.
I'm at that point because I'm ugly. I'm ugly. I already know I'm ugly. You ain't telling me nothing I don't already know. You look in the mirror more than me. I see myself every day. So now I need somebody that's going to be an asset to me, that's going to help me in different things.
But that's real though, man.
That's real. I can get coochie anywhere.
That's true.
They selling it $5. Matter of fact, all you got to do is be able to sing nowadays, and I can sing my face off. So coochie, you can get it with no problem. But then what happens after the sex? It ain't no fun having sex when electricity turned off.
Well,
you speaking some facts.
It ain't no fun when the baby's pissy and the house dirty. That ain't no fun.
He talking.
But yet and still you throwing it down. Okay, you threw it down. Now what you bringing to the table?
A headache.
You bring me something spiritual first.
Yeah.
And then if you can't tell me who the president of the United States is, I don't care how so-called beautiful you are. I don't want to have nothing to do with you. And you don't even know how to vote.
Yeah. One of my
let me tell you something. Y'all laughing, but I was an election judge this year. Folks coming there didn't know how to vote.
Lord have mercy.
So what are you bringing? And that's for the male or the female.
That's very true.
So then that brings me to one of the other points then, gender roles, right? Like nowadays it seems like they're more fluid. I know like traditionally the men provide this, that, and the third. But now it's like things are kind of just they're merging. There's a lot of people out there want to blame certain aspects like feminism or whatever, but I do see gender roles is now in a flux, and you have these debates. We see them all the time on social media about what people bring to the table, this, that, and the third. But then you also have a contingent of women that say they want the man to do this and that. They don't want to subscribe to traditional gender roles, but the man still got to do X, Y, and Z. And then they do the bare minimum or they do whatever they want. And it's like, I want to know, first off, what are y'all thoughts on that right there? Ashton, I know you saw it. I know you've seen it. And I know you saw it too, Elliot.
So go ahead, El.
So to piggyback off of Sean's point about beauty and the fact that you got to be more than just beautiful. I have a close friend who is literally going through a divorce right now because he married someone who was beautiful, but she ain't like that in any other department, especially from the spiritual standpoint. And so when I think about gender roles, I actually had an eye opener last year when it came to gender roles. And even recently, my pastor out here did a sermon about hospitality and traditional gender roles and things like that. And they said that gender roles are only roles, if it's not biblically based, then it's nothing more than a strength. So for example, we see gender roles as the man goes out, gets the money, pays the bills, take care of the home. The women clean, cook, all these different things that ain't really biblically based, by the way. We can examine scripture and see that a lot of the stuff we expecting our wives to do and say that it's biblical ain't biblical. But in hindsight, when she's talking, or when they were talking about the strengths, the person was like, "Yo, like I'm a traditional wife to the core, but if my husband cooks better than me, if that's his strength, then rock on. I'm gonna let him cook." And so I think gender roles. I think one we have to examine: is this role really biblical based? If it's not, then is it our strength? Is it a strength for us? And I brought up the point of someone going through the divorce because he had to sit back and realize yo, like at the end of the day, like you can be as beautiful as all get out, but you don't even know what your own strengths are, let alone you ain't good spiritually. So how in the world can you take care or can you be a viable asset in this marriage?
Mhm.
So that's kind of the big point. I think even when we come to like the timeline of what we see on social media, I think a lot of people, especially when it, and I'm gonna tread lightly because I know people want to shoot out, but every single time, but especially when it comes to women, it's funny because I realize that if God called women to be helpmates, then they can also help get funds for the house too.
Especially
And
in
literally,
2020
especially in
through
2020,
2021.
in 2021, like my wife is a full-out influencer, full-out business owner. She can make good money at a drop of a dime. You think I'm about to tell my wife no that she need to be traditional and cook and clean and I got it? If that bag coming through, I'm let that bag come through. And so
That bag coming through. Yeah.
yeah, like I think a lot of it is just pettiness and another even to the forefront of women who don't do nothing, literally don't do a thing, want a man to basically, I think, Ashton, we had this conversation before, where they literally looking for a daddy. They ain't looking for a husband. They looking for a full-out dad. You want someone to cook, clean, take care of you, go out, and also work and everything like that. In 2021, where student loans are sky high, when car payments are sky high, we and drowning in debt, we depending on the stimulus check, you want all these unnecessary things. And so I think we just have to reevaluate what gender roles are, what they look like. Are they biblical based? If they're biblical based, rock out on them. If not, I think they just are strips. And you two
And
have to
I'm
go kind of through that.
and I'm gonna be honest. I feel like when women get to talking about, I'm the prize and I want a man who, just takes care of me and I just sit there and look cute. I feel like that's their equivalent of the prophets list. It's just unless you in that circle, unless you in a circle of NFL players and ballers and rappers and trappers and whoever else that got millions and racks and millions to blow on you for no apparent reason, you're living in a dream world, baby. You're
Yeah.
living in a dream world. You are living in a dream world because in this day and time, uh, I I would I believe that the statistics prove that a lot of women, even if we narrowed it down to black women, are out earning their men now.
Yep.
They definitely have. Their earning potential is definitely higher, simply because they're more college educated than we are. Statistically, I know that to be a fact. So my thing at this point is, how do we? Let's just scrap all roles. Uh, you know, by gender, unless they are biblical mandates, and let's just work together to make the best out of this situation. Because, like Elliot said, capitalism is kicking everybody in the face.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
so let me ask this: what is not talking about the women? We'll leave that. We let the women do that on the next episode. What is the biblical role of a man then?
Um, Elliot, you the married one, brother. I ain't got nothing to say.
So one thing that always pops to my mind is that one of the biggest things that I believe God calls men to do in marriage is to lay their life down. So literally, I'm trying to make sure I don't wake up the baby, but literally, when I look through Ephesians 5, I look at the fact that God literally says, "Love your wife as Christ loved the church." And so the biggest thing for me, I tell Larissa all the time, is that did I lay my life down for my wife today? Even if I don't make the money, did I lay my life down for her? Even if she didn't get her house that day that I thought I was going to get for her, did I lay my life down for her? Did I sacrifice for my wife? And at the end of the day, like that's the common thing for me. Now I'm still kind of moving through biblical manhood as I know it, but one of the things that always kind of concerned me was that we looked at Adam and we said, this is the standard of biblical manhood, and saying that he needs to have a job, he needs to take care of, his flock, his his domain,
Dominion. Yeah.
his dominion, to have dominion. And in hindsight, and the reason why I said earlier that I had an awakening was that I literally was working at Amazon this time last year, not making $17 an hour, fully married with a baby, and my wife is the one, her income is the one that's paying the rent. And I said, why am I putting myself in this pressure? And the reason why is because I was taught that Adam had a job. Adam had something to take care of. And so in my mind, I said, no, Adam didn't necessarily have a job where he was making income. He had something to steward. And so I think in hindsight, biblical manhood, first off, is laying your life down, but two, stewarding your field. How am I stewarding my family? With all the money that's coming in, how am I stewarding that? With my wife dealing with a certain thing and my daughter dealing with a certain thing, how am I stewarding that? How am I stewarding my time with my family? I literally quit my job because I was out working more than I was at home. And because I felt like the Lord told me, hey, you need to step. So I think in hindsight, like biblical manhood is more than just having that job. Like I hate when we get caught up in that the man has to have a certain job, making a certain amount of income, having benefits, all these different things, not being in debt. I think that is silly expectations. If the man is able to lay his life down every single day, he's in a good spot. And that's kind of the main thing for me.
And it's I would agree when you say silly, only because of the times that we live in. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's getting to the bread. It's not just men, it's not just women. Everybody's getting to the bread in some shape or form or fashion. Should you know how to handle finances? Yes. Should you bring something, a financial whatever to the table? I think that would help, unless you are in a situation like Elliot, what I'm saying, where your wife can support or sustain for a season or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, I agree. A lot of what we superimpose these cultural ideas of scripture. And then, like, we all know the theological term, we eisegete. You know what I'm saying? By taking it and saying, well, Adam had a job. Adam was out there naming apples and dragons and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't getting paid. I mean, he was just out there saying, you're a cat. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he had something to take care of, but like Elliot shared, like he was stewarding something and he was leading his family, but it didn't have anything to do with money. And until we can learn to not filter the scripture through our Western, Americanized mindset and really get to the root of what's being said, I think we have a lot of room to grow as a church in general on what biblical roles are for men and what they are for women. Because a lot of what we've been preached. I mean, Ellie, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you stand up in front of the average congregation of Black Christian men from ages whatever to whatever, about 1,000 men, and you say what you just said, you might get shot. I'm gonna be honest with you. You probably get shot. Yeah. If not shot, you definitely gonna get a brick thrown at you or something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And don't even let the women hear it. But it's not bad. It's not bad theology because he did not have a job. He was not clocking in to work. You know what I'm saying? He had dominion over something. He was stewarding something. So I think I think a lot of it comes from ego. A lot of it comes from pride. You know what I'm saying? Men for generations and centuries have been sole breadwinners and have been on top of their domiciles and their households and what I say goes because they have most of the financial power. But that's just not the case in today's society. And so I think we have to set ego to the side, and we have to set those types of things to the side and really, you know, flesh out the scriptures. Now, one thing I will say to answer your question, Kofi, as far as like what is biblical manhood for you, I do believe something that was displayed before me, and something that I have a personal belief in, is that men should protect. Men should definitely protect their homes, but I don't want to limit that and narrow that down to, you know, I got the blicky whenever you know what I'm saying, or I'm in the gym fighting, that may be a part of it, yes, because evil is all around us. But at the same time, protecting your household is number one, being faithful to your wife. Because when you don't do that, that's wreaking havoc on the whole place. That's wreaking havoc on the family, on the kids, on everybody, on the in-laws and everything. So now your household is in disarray if you can't keep it in your pants. Number two, you know what I'm saying? Are we protecting the mental health of our families? You know what I'm saying? Are we coming home, like Elliot said, are we keeping our issues bottled up and bottled in to the point that where our kids are screaming a little too loud during playtime, or our wife is being a little too, just poking at us about a specific subject? Does that mean that now it's a hole in the wall? You know what I'm saying? Have you protected your household when you put that hole in the wall? Did you protect your household when your children were in the room listening to you call your wife everything but a child of God? You know what I'm saying? We have to shift these narratives, because a lot of times we think about protection in the mindset of breaking in, who's going to get up and go check. Well, of course, if I'm a big old greasy black man laying up here next to you, I'm not going to make you get up and go look, but at the same time, that's not where it ends. So I think, that would be my take on it, is definitely protect her, for sure. We have to, and to me, that's a part of leadership, steering the boat. You know what I'm saying? Anytime I see a captain on a boat, a captain on a plane, a captain of, a military outfit, they're not just protecting the physical bodies of these people, but they're also making sure that captain can't get on the aircraft speaker and say, "We about to die." That's not protecting. You know what I'm saying? That don't help nobody. You have to let the people know, stay calm, stay in your seats. We're going to get through this. And that protects the hearts and the minds of the passengers. Well, I believe it's the same thing in your household. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I'm not saying that you have to be strong always. Well, of course you need to be strong, but I'm not saying that you have to be strong to a fault, to where nobody can see your flaws or nobody can see your humanity, and that you have to bury things. But I am saying that as a man, you need to be mentally and spiritually sound enough that when the winds and the waves crash against your household in a spiritual manner, even in an economic manner, you have the ability to pray your household through it. You have the ability to lead your household, keep the morale up in the household, keep things moving, and yes, that will be a thing that you and your wife will do as a unit, as one, but you as the man part of that unit, I believe that's a mandate from Christ, is that we need to protect, because Christ definitely protects his church.
To interject, me and Elliot was talking about this before we started, and we're going to try to wrap this up here. There's so much we can say. I know I want to keep it around an hour, and we're pushing about an hour and 20 now. But loving our wives as Christ loves the church is such a loaded thing. We hear it all the time. And one of the things that I've taken away from it when I read that is that when you put into context exactly what Christ did for the church, it wasn't domineering. He wasn't dominating. He wasn't trying to impose his will without the church's regard. He wasn't trying to do any of that stuff. Like,
that's real good.
Christ, when Christ loves the church, or as he loves the church, one of the most important things that I noticed is that he empowered the church, right? Whereas he empowered, he gave her gifts, he gave her dominion, he gave her authority, he gave her all these things.
Wow.
But whenever we hear about
No
it,
lie, Kofi, when Kofi said it to me before the call, I was like, man,
Yeah, right. That's a good one. That's a good one.
when we see relationships nowadays, we see men trying to strip power away from their women. They try to dominate their women and try to tell them they're going to submit to them. Where, okay, yes, we submit to Christ, but Christ is okay. Like I'm the head, yes, but go do you. All right, I give you power to do these things. I give you authority to do these things. He never tries to dim our light. But so many times in relationships, you see men, they are they're insecure, and and they are afraid of their wives outshining them, and they try to make them I forget what movie I was watching, but it was Lovecraft Country, right, where the wife was talking about how she dimmed her light with her husband, and it's like so many women do that. They dim their light so they don't outshine their husband. Where I'm like, shouldn't they both shine? Like, shouldn't you try to make both of you guys shine and be powerful?
Sometimes to the detriment of the whole household. Sometimes these women are dimming their light to the detriment of the whole household, because she could do more. She could go out and earn. She could go out and, put your whole family on. But because she's submitting or respecting your manhood, you got her at home barefoot and pregnant, when that's a whole billionaire CEO, you know what I'm saying, sitting in your living room, nursing a baby. And that's the beautiful thing about women, is they have the power to do it all. You know what I'm saying? They can nurse. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, coach.
Let me say this. Genesis, 2nd chapter, 20th verse. Now the Lord, let's start at the 19th. Now the Lord God had formed out of the ground the wild animals and all the birds in the sky. He brought them to man to see what he would name them. You guys talked about that. And whether the man called each living creature. That was his name, whatever the man called him. So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky, and all the wild animals. That's the work. Also, God created man in his image, and God worked to create the world. So if he created man in his image, he created the man to work. Okay. But for Adam, no suitable helper was found. Because remember, all the animals and all the livestock, they had suitable helpers. So the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep, and while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and then closed up the place with flesh. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to Adam. So what God did was took a suitable helper and presented that helper to the man. The reason why on down, and in the 3rd chapter, I believe, when the curse came, God never spoke to Eve first. He spoke to Adam first because he had given the blueprint to Adam. Yeah. When God first created man and woman, he created them to be equal. But the curse brought in the enmity and the separation. So in a woman, her job to a man is to be a suitable helper, one to the other. I heard the young man Elliot say, we're living in a different day and time now. Try living off one salary if you want to in this day and time.
Right. I want to see it happen.
And you'll be living in public housing.
You can.
Now, I'm not going to tell all my business, but my wife and I, in the city, in Illinois, housing is very affordable. It's not like in Houston, where if you buy a $100,000 house, that puts you in the ghetto. But a $100,000 house here in Illinois puts you in a very affluential neighborhood, right? But in order for my wife and I to get this house that we live in, this 4-bedroom house, it took both of us.
Yeah.
When it came time for the financing, my wife actually makes more money than I do. But the financier said she can't do it without him unless his name is on there too. They said the same thing concerning me. He can't get it without her. That's the day and time we live in now. So what we did was combine our suitable assets. Are you hearing me?
Come on. And
we combined our suitable assets, and now we live in this very nice neighborhood in a 4-bedroom house. Our children are gone. We got all this space. We don't know what to do with it.
yeah.
You living the life.
3 automobiles. We don't know what to do with. But what we did was we combined our suitable assets.
I love it.
Yeah.
And we became a combination of both. She helps me, I help her. We can't do it without each other. And that's the blueprint God had set up from the beginning.
It is not good for man to be alone.
That's what the scripture says.
And that did not mean male. That meant mankind.
Mankind.
Good.
It's the man's job spiritually to cover the home. But it's the woman's job spiritually to be an asset to that covering. I made the analogy earlier about if I'm in the house with bleeding kneecaps and my scrotum is busted, I need somebody that's going to be praying.
100%.
I don't need nobody on Facebook.
100%. 100%.
Because I'm in that sick about to leave here. I need somebody going to be able to get a breakthrough. Consequently,
Come
the same thing. Both things apply.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She needs that spiritual covering. I can hear my wife just pulling the garage just now.
Yeah. And even to piggyback back over that, I know I mentioned like, men like in the whole job situation, but I want to clarify too that there's a lot of times where we just put a whole lot of pressure on men to go, earn. Sometimes working 2 or 3 jobs and you're never at home. So a part of the reason why I spoke on that and I had that revelation was really because, like someone even said to me one time, they were like, if Larissa was working $10,000 a month, if she was making $10,000 a month, do you think you'll be working? I said, no, I'm probably building a business somewhere instead of working at the job I work at. Why? Because my wife makes a substantial amount that affords me the opportunity to be at home, to be with my daughter, to be, here with my wife, to never be absent from the home. We see too many men absent from home. And a lot of the reasons, especially, I think there was recently a dude that was on Ayana's Fix My Life. He was on Shade Room when I think it was a holiday season or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, his wife never paid for nothing, never did anything, never did this. I took care of that because I'm a man. Now you're on Ayana's Fix My Life.
Because your kids,
your family.
Your kids say they don't know your middle name.
They don't even know who you are. But you put, and I wouldn't even say you, a lot of times, and I guess that's going to be on another podcast, so we don't want to touch on the women, but a lot of times the pressure that comes from women is that we got to go work. And then we looking like, so what are you going to do? Basically to the point of what Coach just said. What do you do? As a wife, what are you going to do?
Because the rent is $9,000, baby, a month.
You want me to work 3 jobs to get it to work, and that's the problem for me. Like, this is probably, if I have a heart for anything, it's really because men should not bury themselves in work. I actually had a revelation that the devil really uses work to bury men.
Oh, yeah.
So when men are working 3 or 4 jobs, 2 or 3 jobs, that like the enemy's really taking men from the home. Fellas,
my wife just came in the house. I'm gonna have to stop lying now. I'm gonna stop telling all them good lies I was telling earlier.
That's why I'm lying now, JV.
Nah, coach, that was you that said she run your bath water every night, and that's what you had said, right?
She went back outside. She went back in the garage. But it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
This is a really good discussion, man. And like we can talk about this all night. It's so many things to talk about. Cause like there's like the role in the household, like women have to respect when the man's trying to lead them spiritually, and she doesn't really respect you trying to lead spiritually and all sorts of stuff. Like there's so much to talk about in there, but we are like out of time. We are borrowing time at this point. But I will say this though. The women's will be the next episode, and I would like to know if you want to come back for the episode after that, to where we can combine the women and the men, and we can talk to each other and do that, and kind of also talk about some of the things we didn't talk about here, and have a nice little conversation with them. Would you be interested in doing that?
Oh yeah, man, I'm super down.
Yeah,
No,
I'm down with it.
Coach said no. I got a woman.
y'all ain't messing up my marriage.
All right, man. Thank you guys for coming here, man. Like I said, it's so much to talk about. It's so much. There's a lot we didn't even touch on because it's a lot involved in that. But I will say that it's important for men to really recognize, how to love our wives and our girlfriends, and how to actually cultivate our spiritual leadership skills.
How to cherish them, how to treat them right.
Right. Yeah, not to be so domineering and to like, well, I'm the man and what I say goes. Like, we got to be more gracious and compassionate and empathetic and stuff like that. And a lot of those things we kind of view as being feminine, but they're not, because we're saying Christ is being feminine, but like he exhibited all those things. He does those things to us every day. And to me, that is the true definition of biblical manhood.
Houston, we got a problem. Who at fault when you fall with your heart, man? Shooting stars through the dark, who the spark when you're caught in the star and you're stuck at the apartment. Hold on me by the skin of your teeth. Hold on me, wanna live, gotta reach. Roll on me, but we picking up speed. What's real, can't tell, it must be a secret. Plan to be the man to see what fantasy worth. I cannot leave, I gotta put the family first. Ain't